Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and we are back once again to talk more about defensive ends. That's right, and we've got a lot to get through today. We are going to be talking about day 3 defensive ends. And let me put it to you this way. So, I've got the Seahawks depth chart on screen here. Draymond Jones, Jarran Reed, Myles Adams, Jared Hewitt. I firmly believe that if the Seahawks want to be as successful as we all want them to be this year, we're going to need another stud defensive end. Jarran Reed starting is not good enough, I don't believe. At this stage in Reed's career, I don't think he's good enough to be a starting defensive end on a really good defensive line. So, the last 2 days, I've gone over the defensive end prospects who are going to go in the first 2 days, and I firmly believe the Seahawks need at least one of those 5 guys. Now, I personally don't really like the 2 guys I talked about yesterday, so really, what I'm saying is I want them to take at least one of those first 3 guys. Carter, Brissy, or Cansey. So we need that, I believe, unless we're going to go sign somebody like Ioannidis. Somebody who can push Jarran Reed to be a starting defensive end pretty much from day one. But we also need depth because right now our backups are Myles Adams and Jared Hewitt. That's also not good enough. That's not going to cut it either. Myles Adams, he's intriguing. We like him, but realistically, if you're expecting him to play a big role in the defense in 2023, that's a gamble. It's a gamble that you don't have to take. So for me, we need to add one of the studs in this draft, but we also need to add a good depth piece, somebody better than Jared Hewitt. Because odds are good throughout the year we're going to end up using 5 different defensive ends. Maybe not in every game, but there's going to be injuries. There's going to be matchups maybe where we rotate somebody else in and declare a particular player inactive. You're going to need 5 playable defensive ends in all likelihood, especially if we're going to be light at nose tackle, which right now that's what we are. But I feel like you need to draft one of those first 3 guys that we talked about in the videos I made 2 days ago. Maybe you could get away with somebody from my video yesterday, but honestly, I'm not big on either of those guys. And you're going to need one guy from the videos I make today, I think. Again, you can always replace them with a free agent, but we're going to go over a bunch of different guys today. And I feel pretty good in saying that we're going to need at least one of them to feel good about our defensive line depth going into the season. Okay, so let's start with Byron Young of Alabama, 22 years old. Obviously been an important part of that really good Alabama defense for a long time now. Got good length, 34 and 3/8 inch arms, 11-inch hands. Got pretty good size, 294 pounds, 6'3". His combine testing wasn't great. He was considered to be one of the guys who didn't do himself any big favors at the combine, but not necessarily terrible for a guy who's almost 300 pounds. 24 bench press reps is pretty good as well, all things considered. The big boards, most of them have him in the 4th. Most of these big boards have him in the 4th round. CBS really likes him, though. They have him in the 2nd. I do think he'll probably end up going in the 4th round, personally. Like the mock draft database has him at 111, which would be early 4th. I kind of expect him to go in that range. He's got 2 years of pretty good production at Alabama. He's played in 27 games. He's amassed 81 tackles. He's made many plays in the backfield, 13 tackles for loss. So he basically averages a tackle for loss every 2 games, 6 sacks. Not huge production, decent production, and he's been a main contributor to a defense that has been really good. Last year it was number 9. The year before it was 18th. So I think he started 50 games in college, so that's one thing that really draws you to Byron Young. Tons of experience. He's strong. His bench press numbers show it, but his on-field work shows it as well. He's very strong. He holds up well against inside gap runs. If you try to run the ball on the inside against Byron Young, you're going to have a problem. He's very good at controlling the line of scrimmage. He deals with double teams well, and he's got a great body for interior line play. So Byron Young, definitely an appealing player for the right team. And look, we do need run defenders, obviously. Now, the issue with Byron Young would be the other part of the game. He doesn't really have much value as a pass rusher. He's got 6 sacks over the last 2 years, which, I mean, if he was more disruptive, like a Jalen Carter, that would be one thing, but he's not really that disruptive as a pass rusher. This isn't a Jalen Carter thing where he isn't getting a ton of sacks, but he's proven he can be extremely disruptive. You're not seeing that here. And here's the thing that gives me pause. Byron Young, not great when the run goes to the outside. He's not somebody who's going to chase the play down. He's not somebody who's going to pursue the play down the line of scrimmage. He's good against the inside runs. He doesn't move very well. He's not a great athlete. And those things just add up. And I'm thinking, like, we're in the NFC West here. We're dealing with the Niners and Rams. Those teams like to run the ball outside. Is that really what we need? And just overall, combine that with the fact that he's not adding much as a pass rusher, I just don't think he's a good fit for what we have. I think maybe take him in the fifth and that's it. If he's there in the fifth, the value's good. But other than that, I'm not really feeling that one. All right, now we have Jacqueline Roy of LSU, another 22-year-old, slightly bigger guy, 6'3", 305 pounds. Arm length is okay, a little shy of 33 inches, not great. 10 and 1/8 inch hands. He did a little bit at the combine. He honestly didn't do that well. His 3-cone took more than 8 seconds. 20-yard shuttle was 5-yard flat, but his bench press was really nice, 30. So one of the stronger players in this draft. The big boards, again, most have him in the 4th round. CBS has him in the 3rd, and the Draft Network actually has him in the 7th. They really don't like him that much. But the mock draft database says 4th, which is kind of what I expect. He's played in 25 games over the last 2 years. He's given you about 79 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks combined. He was part of a pretty good LSU defense in 2022, I suppose, but not huge production, especially not big splash plays. What I can say about Roy is that I can see him becoming an every down player. Like Byron Young, it's very hard to imagine that he becomes a guy who can play every down. He's probably just a run defender. Jacqueline Roy can become a 3-down player. He's got a great frame for an interior lineman in this league for sure. He, unlike Byron Young, can keep up on outside runs. And he moves pretty well. Even though he didn't test terribly well at the combine, I do believe that if you watch him play a football game, he moves well enough to actually do things like stunts in pass rush, which is something that Byron Young can't do, as an example. So, moves a little bit better despite weighing more. That's kind of the cool thing here. And he's not just a space eater. He can penetrate. He can penetrate gaps against the run and make plays. I know he didn't make a ton of them in college, but he shows that ability a little bit more, I think, than somebody like Young. So this one's a little more intriguing, I think. Now, the issues with Roy would be he can get stuck on blockers sometimes. Sometimes he will win a pass rush rep and then lose it after already winning it because he doesn't capitalize on the advantage he created for himself. Overall, I think my thing with Roy, I feel like he's a pretty good prospect, but I do think he's going to be better in a 4-3, and he's also going to be better with a team that can give him more time. Like, we don't really have time because our defensive line depth is so weak. We need players who can play now. I think Roy's going to need some time, and I think he's better suited for a 4-3. But overall, I think he's better suited to go to another team. He's worth a 4th-round pick. I do think he is worth that 4th-round pick, but I don't think it's going to happen here. And the last guy we're going to take a look at in this video is Carl Brooks. And this guy's weird. This guy's really interesting, actually. Bowling Green, so a smaller college, MAC, affirmative Maction, they sometimes call it, when these guys get attention. A 23-year-old. He didn't do anything at the combine except get measured. 6'3", 303 pounds. But get this, he kind of plays like an edge. And that kind of makes evaluating him hard. And that's probably part of the reason why he's all over these big boards. CBS thinks he's going to go in the top 50. PFF thinks he's going to go bottom 2nd round. And then you have places like ESPN that say 6th rounder, and the Draft Network says he'll be lucky to get drafted. Overall, though, mock draft database has him in the 4th round, which is a decent compromise, but this guy could go anywhere. This guy could go in the 2nd. This guy could be a UDFA. I don't know. He's been very productive the last 2 years. You can say that. He's played in 25 games, has almost 100 tackles. He's made over 30 tackles for loss, so big time splash playmaker. 17 and a half sacks, so he's constantly making things happen in the backfield. Knocked down 4 passes last year and forced 2 fumbles. So what's up with this guy, really? This one's kind of hard to crack, right? He's actually a really creative pass rusher. He's got a lot of different pass rush moves. For a guy who's 300 pounds, he's actually moving really well. It's almost too bad he didn't compete at the Combine. I think the Combine could have really helped him because he probably would have tested really well for a guy who's 300 plus. He gives effort. There's no doubt about his effort. I don't question his, his drive to succeed. He's been very productive. He's also got a good amount of strength. Sometimes he wins just by pushing the dude around. Unfortunately, that's kind of hard to really judge when you're talking about a guy like Karl Brooks who is playing for Bowling Green. He's playing against weak competition. And the way I would put this is he's like an edge rusher in a interior defensive lineman's body. I I don't know what Karl Brooks is going to try to be. Like, you look at him and you go, oh, that's a defensive lineman, an interior defensive lineman. But you watch him play, and then it's like, oh, he's a really, really big edge player. I think he needs to either drop weight or get stouter against the run, because right now he's not great against the run. He's also not very long. He has length issues, and that is going to be a problem if he decides to commit to being an edge rusher. So, at the end of the day, this isn't really something that I'm interested in. Even if he does end up becoming an edge in the NFL, which is what I think he's going to want to try to do, I don't think it's happening in a 3-4. So, unless he falls to the 6th round and the value becomes really good, I'm a hard pass. All right, more prospects later. See you guys later. Go Hawks.